All right. Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the investment class. We're going to be working on planting investment seeds throughout the qualified presentation. And this is going to be the part 3 and quite likely the grand finale. So, or it could be like Harry Potter and like extend it out, and have like 7, 8, or however many movies, and then a sequel. The sequel will be the investment presentation. We'll do that. It's going to be amazing, better than Fantastic Beasts. Anyways, all right. So for all of you sci-fi nerds out there, right? Got to represent. Okay, so here we are. We got the presentation. I think that we went as far as, you guys are going to have to help me, as far as the theory, right? We went through the theory, or did we not? Where did we leave off? Oh, we talked about compound interest. And I think we ended there, actually, right? We didn't go into, rule of 72. Is that right?
That sounds about right.
Okay. All right. Excellent. Do you guys need me to go over rule of 72 again?
Yes, why don't you just start there?
Okay. What does everybody else think?
Yeah, we were finishing up 72, so you could like go from the end of 72 to compound interest.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. Well, or I could just, so what do you mean go to the end of it? I'll summarize. I'll just do a quick summary of it, right? Instead of doing all the words, but basically what we're saying, right? So we go over, have you heard of it? We ask them, we always take a very educational approach. Okay. A lot of my clients, I find when I say that, really appreciate that, because I tell them, it's educational. Like, we want you to be completely empowered, so that you can make an intelligent decision, because you feel very confident, because you're given the information, you're giving the facts, you're giving all the options, and you yourself can make an intelligent decision. Okay. And that's very important. I really like being able to kind of use language like that, because what is that kind of planting in them is, oh, I'm going to be educated. I'm going to have all the tools that I need so that I can make an important decision. And I say this all the time. I'm like, I don't want you to be like, hey, trust me, I'm a professional, and stuff like that, right? I want them to feel really confident in making a decision themselves, right? So that's why we say educational approach, that sort of thing. I referenced Dave Ramsey, Susie Orman. Why? It's kind of like a higher authority type thing. People generally love Dave Ramsey, right? And then I go into it, make a joke. Yeah, it's only the most important rule of money. Right? So have you heard of it? No, not really. That's okay. It's the most important rule of money. That's all. Right? They're like, right? Okay. I know, it's hilarious. And then, but you have to deliver that well. It can't be like, yeah, but it's the most important rule of money. Fool. It's like they need to deliver it so they know it's kind of like a cheeky joke, if that's your style. Okay. We go through the different examples, right? We explain rule of 72, and then we make them guess how much 12% is going to be. Okay. And by the way, when we talk about 2, we ask them about if they got money in the bank, right? To illustrate, your bank's not even giving you this, and look how crappy this is, right? We illustrate 401ks usually give between 6 and 8%. Hey, we got to do better. And we're letting them know, hey, your 401k is better, but it's not the best, right? So in the case of rollovers, Roth IRAs, right? Investing in anywhere outside of their 401k, right? And then we let them guess about the 12%, make a joke of it just for fun, break the ice, make sure that they're still engaged and things like that. Get their Richard, what's the brain, the math side of the brain? Or
right side.
The right side, right?
Artistic and creative is left, but right side, you just talk to Ian about that. He's a math.
Oh, that's right. I knew you were a professor. I forgot what.
Yeah.
So right side.
I call him Dr. Smith. So
I know, professor. We call him.
Yeah, that's it.
So the nutty professor. What? It's like. But Dominic is not amused at all. But anyway, so and then we ask them to guess this just for fun, right? But it also adds a little drama to it, because then they'll really remember, because they're like, whoa, I was way off. What? You can get these kinds of returns? Crazy. Okay. Then I go over the 2 the 2 questions I always hear. Okay. This is a good time, because I hear about the 12% thing, right? So here is a natural way to address it. But also, I don't know, I just like threw in there this other question I hear all the time, which was, it all sounds too good to be true. So we explain why, like, it's like, and I like, we put it up front. They have these questions in their mind. By the time you get to something like 12% and they see this, they're like, no, right? Okay. But then also, you know, they're going to wonder about the 12%. So I address that it all sounds too good to be true, you know, and then I address the 12%. Okay. And this is kind of, this also helps to explain when you talk about fees down the road, right? I know you guys had that question initially. All right. This sets the stage. Okay. So because we're part of the largest network in financial services, right? We're not going to go to those, we don't say we're going to, sorry, I'm out of my flow here. Okay. So I hear two things all the time, right? The first thing is that, all sounds too good to be true. Second is 12%, right? Where do you get 12%? You get 12% through the highest grade investments. But where do you get those? High-end brokerages. And I name them: Morgan Stanley, Raymond James, Chuck Schwab, right? Charles Schwab, right? So, I'm a little bit off my flow right now, right? Hey, it happens to the best of us. Okay. Because we're part of the largest network but you need $250,000 to $500,000 before you even take their phone call, or before they even take your phone call, right? And sometimes I use my example about, I don't know if I've told you guys this, and remember, stories sell, facts tell. Okay. I have true story, right? A client who engineered the Silver Line. I may have told you guys about him, right? And he's my niece's best friend's dad. We met him on Halloween. I think it was like 2018, something like that. We go inside to warm up. We're just chit chatting. He finds out I'm in finance. He's like, "Oh, can I talk to you?" It's like, "Yeah, sure. Of course. Why not?" And he's like, "Oh, because I called Morgan Stanley earlier in the week, and the only question they asked was, do I have $250,000 ready to invest now?" Right. And now the thing is that, he didn't. He had several $100,000 in his 401k, but he was in his young 40s. He couldn't move that. Right. And he was going to invest $2,000 a month, which is not shabby, but that wasn't $250,000 right now. So they didn't even entertain his phone call. Okay. So, so we were able to come in, help them out. Right. And I kind of told the story that it's like, even though like they're, he's from an Indian background and stuff like that, Hindu background, by the time we finished, he called me his Christmas angel, and stuff. Right. And funny, interesting recent development of the story, right? Which I add in there sometimes and stuff too. And this is, I think, is very relevant to you guys, right? Where it's like, recently he left Bechtel, and he had it was over $600,000, right? And that actually, I believe, was part of my $45,000 month, right? So he called me and he was like, "Hey, my department went from 300 to 3 people. They're not doing very well. I was one of the last 3 standing." I was like, "Oh, I'm reading the writing on the wall here. I'm out." And so now he works for Amazon. Okay. But guess what? He called me. He remembered, because part of my investment presentation, I make sure that they know this is why we always roll over money. Right. And so, so we had that conversation. We went over those things. Right. I still had to show him how his American funds was doing better than his 401k, right? Which he was in index funds, which was very easy to prove. Okay. I think the index at that time did year to date like 3% or something. American funds was at like between 18 and 24%. I can't remember, but at least 18%. It's like, hell yeah. Right. And it's not always about like that direct thing, but that definitely helped, and we looked at their accounts and how the accounts have grown since they've established it. Right. Because on American funds, it shows you since inception, the growth, as well as year to date growth. Right. And both those numbers look very good, and they're very growth oriented. So that was good. Right. Anyways. So, sometimes I talk about that story, right? Depending on the market. And if I feel like they really kind of need that extra proof, because real life example. Now that's my story. Right. Oh, and by the way, they also were in an accident. A life-threatening accident at the Grand Canyon. The family went on a vacation the year before, and they were driving. It was kind of like dusk evening, right? They were driving along the Grand Canyon, and this car starts barreling at them with one light, and they're like, the dad in a split second had to think either I hit this car or certain death falling off the Grand Canyon. I don't know if you guys have ever been there. There are no rails. It's just like you're plummet to your death, and stuff. It's like when I was there, I was like, ooh, I don't know if I would bring like kids here. And of course, there's like the one dude who's hanging onto the rock, taking a selfie, being like, dude, check it out. I'm like, why are you doing that? Right. Anyways, every young man's last words, watch this. Or in the South, right? Hold my beer, I just learned that one too. That was funny. But anyway, so they end up hitting the car. Turns out that car hit a stray cow on the road, and that's why it lost a light. That was out of control. But the parents who were in their young 40s and their two young kids that are like basically junior high age, right, all suffered a lot of injuries. The wife had multiple strokes. The husband had complications. The kids had things. It was very sad. And so guess what? They're also my life clients, right? And they were asking me when we were meeting, they're like, we really want to get more insurance, and it's like, well, you guys are uninsurable as of this point, right? However, we do have that increasing benefit rider, and that gave them great joy and comfort there. And we did give them a good amount of life insurance, like, a fairly appropriate amount of life insurance. They already had some term, right? So we stacked that. Not that we're talking about investments, right? But sometimes it's like they have some term. It's like, okay, well, you can keep that, and stuff. That's dirt cheap. But it's gonna expire, and it was gonna expire pretty soon for them, right? But we were able to also get them, good coverage and stuff like that. So they're very grateful for that. Okay, so just know that like these things happen, and then tragically, right, also around that time, when we were meeting, just like the month before, his only younger brother, young 40s, top guy in India, and like, youngest VP of Oracle, this, that, I mean, like degrees, like you wouldn't believe, and just very decorated and things like that, died tragically, suddenly, like in the shower, like slipping out of like the bathtub or the shower, left behind a wife and a daughter. And then the next month, his dad died basically of a broken heart, and stuff, because it was just such a tragic loss. And that was the younger child, the baby, I'm the baby, but we're just so loved, right, and stuff. Okay, but very tragic. And so I give you these examples. It's just kind of like, this is real life, and it's like, what we do is the right thing. And and you want to make sure you do the right and the full job, for your clients, and fight for that. He was one of my most, is one of my most intricate clients. Like, I think I spend a lot of time explaining things and going over things with him and stuff. But what a great client he is though, too, because he really wants to understand, and he asks the tough questions. And I've had to get better because he was my client. Right. But anyways, but true stories, you can use any and all of, parts of that story to illustrate things. I use a lot of stories when I talk to people, not necessarily always in the presentation. I have these stories in my back pocket to like pop up and illustrate certain things. Like I recently had to save a life policy, right? And where, the person was going back. Actually, Sandy, this was one of our clients, over in West Virginia, right? Where she was like, okay, well, cool. We did the policy delivery, excuse me. And she's like, well, let me go cancel my cash value. Let me go talk to the agent. They're just right next door. I was like, let me do it with you. And she's like, oh, well, they're just right next door. She did it anyway, even though we were supposed to do a call at like 11. And then she's all like, well, do you guys have cash value? Because I really beef cash. It's like we went over this in great detail, because if you guys see the way that I explain, that side of the presentation too, it's very thorough, right, and stuff, right? But some time has passed, okay, since the policies, we first did that and delivered, and that person's right there in their ear, so I used a bunch of examples, and she wanted to decrease, the coverage then, and even though she got a preferred plus, OMG, right, very rare to get a preferred plus, all this kind, but it's like, penny wise, pound foolish type thing, right? But I had stories, to be able to save it and things like that, right? And at the end of the day, I think that, and she's deliberating on it, she still might reduce some and stuff as opposed to being properly insured, which is what they were all on board for initially. And then what do I think? All you can do is all you can do, and all you can do is enough. Like you really do your best. And I tell you what, right? Meeting with this client, this Bechtel Amazon client, stuff like that, right? They like, I had to really go over all that, and I really did my best to help them to get properly protected, and they are, for the most part, I mean, they're well protected, right? Maybe not exactly everything, but they're well protected because they do also have some assets and things like that. But I fought for that, right? To fight for these kids. And because I know what I know, like Shaq always says, if you knew what I knew, right, you would do this, okay, and be like well protected and stuff like that. But then this accident happened, and they're so grateful, right? That's kind of like a positive thing, and everything. But sometimes it's like we do our best, and they still choose whatever they choose. And it's like, for me and my own conscience with these things, and even with investments, because I don't get every client. Yeah, I get the logical clients, right? But some clients, honestly, that's not logical. They're like, I know that this isn't as good or this or that, whatever, but it's my cousin or this or that, or it's just, it feels like it's going to be too much work to do the paperwork. I had one client like that way back when. I'm like, wow. And I broke down everything. It's like they just laziness, pure laziness to miss out on literally hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars difference, right? So, but anyways, it's like, but we got to do that right thing for clients, right? So sorry for the tangent. I hope those stories kind of help you, but have these stories in your back pocket to be able to bring them up, because like, again, this isn't about making a sale. This is about people's lives. Every family that we're meeting with, these are lives, these are children, these are futures. These are, so, we really have to do our best and even on like a, in a Christian way, if you don't mind me sharing, it's just like, we're meant to do our best, like as unto Christ, like we're just meant to be our best and do our best, right? And stuff. And so just in our own lives and in the own way in which we conduct ourselves in all things, we do our best, right? And understand that it's for people, just like you guys are people, and you're real life people with your real life lives and everything that's going on. These are real life people. And so we need to go into all of this with that sense of duty and responsibility, like, yes, I will do my dang best for you, right? Oh, and sidebar too, they got a settlement, this family, right? Because of like, there was like a lawsuit because they got injured, right? And all this kind of stuff. So now they have, I want to say $200,000 to $300,000 more that they're going to invest. Okay. So when you do a great job for them, just like, Ben Shepherd and Howard Lash and everybody else talks about, you do a great job for them, you become their person. And then every other thing that happens in their life, the good and the bad, right, and stuff, they come to you, and that's more subsequent business. So, continue, take care of your clients, right? Anyways, so because we're part of the largest network in financial services, right, we went to the same high-end investment companies, and we said, look, we're not going to bring you a handful of wealthy guys in their yachts, okay? But we'll bring you a whole lot of regular people. So we bring a lot less per client, but so many more clients in the end, more volume in the end, that we were actually able to negotiate our minimum from $250,000 down to just $50. So if you got $50, you can literally invest where all the wealthy people put their money without all those extra fees, right? So that's kind of how I say it, okay? And how I explain that. So that addresses fees. How are you guys? Oh, it sounds too good to be. How are you? How come they don't do blah, 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 right? So we're explaining that the bulk, just like in the beginning, when I talk about our company, how we're like the Walmart, Costco, Amazon of financial services, right? We're basically bringing that concept back again. We bring significantly less per client typically, right? But so many more clients, more volume in the end. So it's like we're bringing more. That's why these high-end investment companies are like, yes, we will offer our world-class things for you, right? And sometimes I mention too, right, that so I have multi-million-dollar clients, and I have literally my $50 a month clients, right? And so I mentioned that. And again, everything that I say, you can say, because you can say our office, our group, in our group, you can say we have, which is absolutely true, right? This is because you're just trying to illustrate a point. You don't need to be like, well, I'm the one that's like, no, it's like we have multimillionaire clients, like I can say I have, right? But we have multiple, and we have our $50 a month clients, for example, right? And I tell them about this, like, I was referred to a Nigerian nurse, and she has a 19-year-old daughter, works at Starbucks, right? And she basically Nigerian mamaed her daughter, to make sure she got a $50 a month pack and stuff, right? And it's like, and this young lady is going to definitely appreciate, definitely going to appreciate, her mom kind of forcing her into this like investment, right? Because one day she's going to have great habits and a lot of money, right? Hang on. Oh, PAC. Pre-authorized checking. So Dominic, that's like when you put in like a monthly amount, like I just got two fully funded Roth IRAs at the catch-up amount. So they put 583, a month. Yeah. So that's what a PAC is. Okay. So anyways, so any questions about that? So I'm like, so not everyone has 20,000, but we all have $200 a month. Right. And I know that Shaq talks about like, how much money do you guys kind of waste? Honestly, like I don't go through that question, not because it's not a great question. I haven't really been in the habit. I think when he introduced that concept, I was already doing things in a certain way, but I already find out how much they waste or what their money is, because I go over that when we do our F&A. So I already gather that information and I don't close on a first. Right. And most of my clients are pretty like they see the logic of needing life insurance. And honestly, I'm a very no pressure kind of like person, either on the life insurance or the investments. It's like, I'll present the truth, the facts, and I'll do my best. But at the end of the day, like if they choose to be responsible in these areas, they do. If they don't, I've done my part, right? I have plenty enough other people kind of to meet with and stuff. Right. So, which also has like a great freedom, and I think that like my clients really appreciate that. They don't feel pressured at all. I in the past, like, I was like big on like, oh, we got to be able to close on first, this, that, whatever. And I understand for sure, like, certain people in certain, meetings and times, and the way that I used to kind of do my KT and stuff like that was, there's certain times that absolutely is appropriate. Now I take more time with my clients, but I also think I'm building a stronger rapport and relationship with them, and with my life insurance, I have amazing persistency, and stuff. Like pretty much everybody keeps their policies and everything like that too. And, clients stay investment clients with me, and stuff. Right. So, but I'm like taking that time with them to really take that approach kind of as a financial advisor. So it's moving a little bit slower, than just going in and closing on the first or something like that, right? But I'm keeping these clients, and then I'm able to do total business. I'm a greater value to them, and then they can refer me in multiple product lines and areas because of that experience, right? So again, it's a different approach sometimes, but that's what's been working for me, So anyway, so I do, say, okay, so not everyone's got 20,000, but we all got $200. I mean, when you think about it, right, we all waste a little money. Chipotle, Chick-fil-A, even just $10 a day is $300, right? Just $200 for 35 years, right? At 3% grows to 150, 6% grows to 300, 12%, $1.3 million. But did you ever think that $200 a month can make you a cash millionaire? Probably not, right? And Albert Einstein says compound interest is the most powerful force in the universe. Pretty smart guy, right? It works for us in investing. It works against us in debt. And then I click over to debt, right? And so, and part of me also, sometimes I mention too, that it's like, we are the only company that can help people of modest means get these kinds of returns. So one day they can eat in retirement. Okay. And sometimes I talk about if they're within around that age range, or if they have kids that age, it's like, so let's go ahead and put you in this example, right? Like you invest, 3%, it grows to this, right? Why? Engagement. Just like, in real estate, they're like, oh, can you imagine having a bonfire in this backyard and this and that and all this stuff like that, right? You want them kind of thinking about these realities. Okay. So again, I don't know if this is in the new KT, like in the newest one, this was what we used to have like a while back. And I've kept this slide because again, it helps me make investments, right? Because this slide for me is the pack slide, right? That down to pre-authorized check-in monthly amount, this is them putting $200 a month in and visualizing, because I don't go over a hypothetical in the KT. So this is my bare bones hypo, right? The rule of 72 with the 20,000, that's my long range hypo, right? And kind of stuff, right? This is, or lump sum hypo. This is my, and people love hypos, hypotheticals, right? Which means what that is, folks, is like, you show them, if you invest this much, this is actually how it grew all these years. They want to see the money. They want to see what it's going to be. I remember when I was first a client, I saw the hypothetical. I was like, I'm in. You mean if I put this much in 20, 40 years, this is how much I'm going to have? Absolutely, right? People get excited about that because they see what it can be, right? And so so this is my pack slide, and I kind of describe it that way. And I do talk about how we waste money, and you can kind of see through body language, or like one of the spouses look at the other spouse or whatever it is, right? And we get a good chuckle out of that, right? But I also kind of drop those, referral sleeves too. It's like, part of the reason why we're so passionate about what we do and we're trying to tell everybody is because we are the only company that can help people of modest means get these kinds of returns so one day they can eat and live well in retirement, right? Kind of thing. So I'm also kind of like letting them know it's us, folks, right? Where are you going to get American funds? If not through a broker, they only work through brokers. You need a lot of money before you get those. Straight up truth and facts, right? And so it's like, we're the only ones. And we're letting them know of modest means, right? It's like, hey, that's a lot of times, mostly a lot of people that we work with. It's like, even just a little bit of money at this rate of return. Did you ever think that $200 a month can make you a cash millionaire, right? Makes you think differently about your money, doesn't it? Okay. And stuff. So I love this slide, right? And it also tees me up, right? I talk about the, Albert Einstein works for you in investing, works against you in debt. So we help families get completely debt-free, mortgage and all, using the exact same dollar amount, and they're getting out of debt on average tens of years sooner, saving tens of thousands of interest, same dollar amount, right? So that's all that I say there. But that sounds, if you have debt, that sounds pretty damn good, doesn't it? Same dollars coming out of your pocket, right? We help people do that. Sometimes, honestly, like what these slides, what the QA presentation is about, right? The whole point is, and everything that we do basically is moving people to the next step, to the next step, to the next step, whether that's a recruit, a client, whatever, a prospect. It's all about that next step, right? And this is also part of closing too. You need to have a next step. I know some folks, they're great at, like, they could present, they could do this, they generate interest, but then you got to close it, right? So anyway, so, so this moves them. Sometimes they're just interested, or the main thing on their mind is the debt. And that's that carrot to lead us to say, yes, I want to meet the next time, right? And also when you're going through these slides, right, this is, for me, the KT, and I know, like, I have, a bit more slides than I think the current KTQA, presentation has, right? But it's like a buffet, and I'm just like, hey, we got this, we got this, we got this, we got this. What are you interested in, right? So anyway, so that's what I say about debt. And then we go into life insurance, right? And so I'm like, okay. And we always explain life insurance. But we always educate on life insurance. This is one of the most misunderstood concepts out there. So we always try to educate on that. So that's all that I say on that slide, right? What I'm saying, very direct, because sometimes, okay, imagine this, you're walking into this presentation and now life insurance, right? People are now, they're like, you gonna try to sell me some life insurance, right? And stuff. Okay. So we're trying to say, this is one of the most misunderstood concepts. So we always do an education on that, right? So we're taking the approach of people get misunderstood and taken advantage of. We're going to educate you and give you the juice. You know what I'm saying, right? So So what would you say is the worst thing that can happen to a family financially? Oh, bankruptcy, this, that, whatever. Right? Yeah, that's really bad. And why is that so bad? Oh, because they don't have any money coming in, right?